What's up, everybody? You're listening to Salah's Corner with the one and only Salah Muhammad. So the other day I was talking to a friend on Facebook, and I was trying to get someone involved in special education, teachers assistants, and something along the lines of educators on the podcast. So I got connected with two people, Leah and Sadidra. They both are a part of the Working Educators Caucus. They both are what we call paraprofessionals. We'll get into that later on the podcast. I learned a lot about what that is. Throughout the podcast, you hear a lot of different acronyms, SPED, BCAs, and things like that. Those are all different professions that work with either special education or behavioral issues inside the classroom. And we had a very lengthy discussion on what it means to be represented in the workplace, how these paraprofessionals need adequate pay, adequate training, adequate respect, and essentially equal rights as they go to work every day. They are not paid, not even close to on par as some teachers are. They don't have the same benefits, and they are being put up with tough conditions where the kids are sometimes, unruly and hard to deal with and hard to manage without the training, and then no respect in the classroom from some teachers, not all teachers, but some teachers, and there's just an issue with the hierarchy here. We'll dive into a lot of that on the podcast and just really break down what a paraprofessional is, what are some of the things that they're asking for as working educators, because they are educators just as much as teachers, and how the public, and specifically parents, can support their cause. So I've had a lot of people coming to me asking me where I find the time and the space to make all of these podcasts happen. Well, I have to thank the folks at Rec Philly. They provide me the space, the equipment, and the networking capacity to make this take off. And it's not just for other podcasts. Other creative individuals use this space as well. We're talking musicians, photographers, anyone that considers themselves a creative individual. So if that's you, head over to Rec Philly. Visit them on Instagram, and if you find yourself wanting their membership, tell them Salah sent you. Let's do a quick introduction to each of you ladies. You are?
My name is Leah Wood. I am a classroom assistant at Feltonville School of Arts and Sciences, and I am running for para-representative for the PFT this coming election.
Hi, my name is Sadidra Williams. I'm running for middle school representative under the Working Educators Caucus. I currently am a special education assistant at Greenfield Elementary School.
So before we dive really, really deep into things, let's set an understanding of what is a paraprofessional.
Ooh. Okay, I would say paraprofessionals is like a big umbrella, and under that umbrella you have SSAs, you have SPED assistants like Leah and I, you have librarian assistants, you have bilingual counseling assistants,
community liaisons.
Community liaisons. So it's a list, but they just group us all together under this umbrella as paraprofessionals.
And I mean, it's basically the bones of the.
Yeah, we're that little nut. We're that nut that holds everything together.
Yeah. I mean, not even a little nut, like every little detail, because that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot that falls under that umbrella. Does that make sense as all of these different professions and focuses on? I know that's not necessarily what we're going to talk about, but as I think about as all of those different job descriptions fall under the role of paraprofessional, does lumping everything together start to overshadow one profession over the other?
I would agree.
Yeah.
There are almost 3,000 paraprofessionals in the PFT currently. We have 13,000 members, so paraprofessionals make up almost 10% of the union. Grouping us all together, I do agree, it can, you forget some other positions such as the BCAs or the librarian assistants.
Right.
I don't know if you know, I believe there's only 7 librarians in the district right now.
Yeah, that's it.
They're trying to, organize.
Hold on.
Yeah.
7 librarians in the entire school district?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, especially with charter schools, and even not with charter schools, they've been closing libraries down. Like, there was no library in my school, but there were still books around. What they did was they took out all of those books and they put them in the book room and they just threw them in the trash after I stole a couple of them. I liberated the books for my classroom. And so they turned that room into a STEM lab. But if you look even at the charter schools, like I used to work at Mastery, and the first thing they do is they remove the library. So there are no libraries left in any of the schools, really.
Yeah, and it's hurting the students. It's, the parents are, outraged because of this. So now I saw an article recently saying that the certified librarians that are left in the district are trying to organize to bring attention to this matter and to, I guess, revise the libraries in the district, and hopefully schools can, begin to have libraries again. But it's going to be I would say a long road. Like I said earlier, some positions under the para umbrella are overshadowed, and that's just one example. And now paras are starting to, SPED assistants and BCAs, and we're like, we're not invisible. Maybe you grouped us all together, but we each individually have a voice, and we're going to speak on that now. Yeah. So it's been a lot of organizing with the different roles under the paraprofessional umbrella.
And the thing about that is that a lot of us did not know that we were all under the same umbrella. So I call it little bubbles. So you had your SPED assistants was one bubble, you had your ASL interpreters was another bubble, and you had like your BCAs were another bubble, and you did not know that you were all a part of the same group unless you looked at the back in the contract. Like there are BCAs floating around in my school, but I did not know until I started working with the working educators that they were a part of paras, because we don't get to talk to each other.
Yeah.
So, and you don't get to highlight some of the biggest concerns that they have. I get the sense of, there's power in solidarity, but then when you don't know each other exists, you don't really have that power.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And before the working educators, nobody was really talking to the paras. Nobody, was trying to hear what their concerns were. So I appreciate being a part of a caucus that tried to hear out every member. I mean, I love the teachers. I thank them for everything that they do, but there's, more than just teachers that's inside of a building.
Absolutely.
You have the secretaries, you have the counselors, you have the OTs, the PTs, and, the assistants, BCAs. It's so many people. So now we, want to bring that to the forefront and say, hey, out of these 13,000 members, there are so many different roles that play a part in, keeping the school afloat and, helping the students out each and every day. And we want to bring attention to that and find out what are these members' needs and these groups' needs, and try to, get that, solve that, help them, things of that nature.
How do you feel about the school district of Philadelphia as a whole?
As an employee or as a parent?
You can answer that however you like.
As a whole, we are failing. They are failing. They are robbing us and our children. It's like they don't care that our babies are here and they think they have no value. They may say they have value, but they don't feel that we have value. Because I look as an employee, I remember going into a basement one day and just pulling out books that they had just thrown away that could have been used because they switched to a different curriculum. I've been in classroom with really smart kids, but they don't think they're smart. And I'm talking, these are the toughest boys ever. And they're crying over the PSSAs because they don't understand it. We are failing these kids. And I feel that people are so into money and test scores that we're not looking deep enough and trying to help these. Like, they don't understand that helping our babies is going to help us bring money. It's going to help bring talent. But we're so focused on the other, more profitable spaces that we don't care. And I want to go back to when I was a kid. Like, okay, the 80s was a little rough, I admit it. But you had libraries, you had class trips. Like my son, who's now 22, I think he went on 5 trips. His entire school, like the entire time he was in public school, I think he went on 5 or 6 trips. I remember as a kid, Franklin Institute, Natural History Museum, the Art Museum. I remember going repeatedly.
I lived in the Franklin Institute when I was going to school.
Yes.
I was there almost every school year.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, it was opportunities to learn and learn outside the classroom. It was just not Okay, this is how you answer the questions on the test. This is all you need to know the answers to the test. We can't get money for the schools unless you can do well on the test. No, that's not how it's supposed to work. We're not teaching these babies how to think.
Sadidra?
Currently, I feel like the school district could do better. I don't know if you guys know, but Dr. Hyde thought that he would renovate his, nice little suite and spend over $604,000.
Four.
It was definitely more than $500,000 that he used. That could have been, like we was just talking about, used for libraries, used to hire, more staff. With the asbestos going on, the school district really needs money to clean up these schools. In the 80s, there was a crisis about asbestos. Why is it in 2020 we're still talking about asbestos? They do, patchwork, and I really think that they need to, sit down and think about, like, how can we improve the schools, for our students and, for future generations. To me, is highly important. And that's, again, why the Working Educators Caucus, last year they had got over 2,000 signatures from different PFT members across the district for the Healthy Schools conditions. And City Hall, they basically gave we $150 million, and I gave you a flyer in regards to that.
Yes.
That would be used to help clean up the asbestos. That is not enough, but, thank goodness for, the Working Educators Caucus. I would say it's a pretty good start.
Tell me how you both feel about this. So I was just reading an article from Forbes, and it talked about how the city of Philadelphia, the school district of Philadelphia, has a shortfall of $304 million that could potentially close more schools, because we've already closed, I think it was 23 or something like that. Lay off thousands of workers, teachers, cut resources and programs, and everything that comes with not having $304 million. At the same time, the state is building a prison for $400 million.
I heard about that.
I heard about this. Oh, I love
Go ahead,
this.
Leah.
Okay, so this is the fun thing. My mama used to work for the Philadelphia prison system. And what she said was the Philadelphia prison system was the only city organization that turned a profit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny, considering how horrible our schools were. And there's money out there. Okay, so this is what I found out. The school district is owed money. All we got to do is ask for it.
Owed money from who?
We're owed money from universities. It's called the Pilots Program. Yeah, didn't know this existed. It's payment in lieu of taxes. All they got to do is go ask for their money, and we would have it. Also, the PPA owes the school district money. All they got to do is go ask for it. Say, give me my money, just like Sally Mae calls you and asks you for your student loan money.
Listen, they taking money out of my check every time I get paid. They ain't even asking no more. They just taking it.
They be like, you know what? You're not answering us, so we just going to take it from you. Yeah, so the money is out there. It is up to us to ask for it. Like I didn't know about tax abatements. I call it Simpleonia. I watched them as a kid move up Montgomery Avenue. Because I lived at 19th and Montgomery on Huber Street. So I watched them build all of that up. So you're telling me that they have money to build all of this up, but they can't help us schools?
Right.
You would want children from your neighborhood schools to come to your university and say, look, Philly's got a great education system. Look where we're pulling from. But there's no money because they're not giving it up.
At the same time, this is another fact of that. At the same time, the state, over the last few budget cycles, has had a surplus upwards of over $200 million.
I personally have a problem with the school to prison pipeline situation. $400 million to build a prison when it's only $300+ million to, make sure our schools are fully staffed. I feel like the district is saying, I don't care if these children, go to jail. I don't care if they go to prison. They're not investing in the future of our children. They're investing in their own pockets and greed and offices that cost over $500,000. So, yeah.
There's a direct profit margin
Yes.
to not funding education, because those individuals end up right into the prison system, and you're
Yes.
funding
You're funding
you're
that.
funding that directly,
Yes.
essentially.
Yes, because it's cheap labor. It's like these people, inmates are happy to A, get out of their cell, B, make a little money off for commissary, but you also have on the other end, you have companies that can make it so they can have somebody do call center and only pay them 15 cents an hour versus somebody as in a call center in the office that you got to pay them at least $12 an hour.
I tell everyone to watch Ava, the 13th. It's really, really informative. It talks so much about how the federal, our federal justice system just, doesn't care about our children. Now that I'm working with the Working Educators Caucus, I see now how the district plays a role in that as well. So
How is that relationship with the Working Educators Caucus?
We created something called #ParaPower. And
I've seen that on Facebook.
Yeah. And I would say it really helped to bring paras across the district together to talk about the main issues and concerns that's going on in each school. After paras, talked and organized, we came up with the ParaPower Manifesto, and that is a list of things we feel like should be enforced in the contract, because it's in the contract but it's not being enforced, and also things that's not in the contract that we really feel needs to be in there and also enforced.
So you gave me that ParaPower Manifesto. This is why we fight: a fair living wage, be actively included on building committees and their meetings, real professional development, and relevant trainings that pertain to the work they actually do, more pathways to certification as teachers and counselors, more respect and better job conditions in our school. It's kind of sad that it is 2020 and like this has to be, this is basically just, this is so simple. Like, this is so simple in a sense of, like, as a professional, as someone who's taking care of the next generation and is trying to build a stronger community, you have to ask to be respected on your job.
I feel like it's like a hierarchy sometimes.
It is a hierarchy.
In the schools. When I work with a student, I tell him, to treat the janitor as if he was the president, because I worked with a principal and many people that started, as an assistant, and, they made their way up all the way to working at, 440. So you never know who you may be talking to. So like I said, it's like a hierarchy. So paras aren't really respected in the district. Some people believe maybe it's because it's only required that you have a high school diploma. Some people have that feelings because it's mostly black and brown, minority
and women
people, and it's mostly women. So it's like when you think about women, when you think about black and brown people, when you just think of that aspect, that group, my group, isn't already respected. So then when you work in a school with people that may have, like, doctors or masters, things like that, sometimes they just look down. I don't know why, but I listed a couple theories on why they do it. And ParaPower is hoping to change that mindset. Like, we're important. We, a lot of parents in the district have higher education. They maybe had to stop going to school because they couldn't no longer afford the courses. And the district provides tuition reimbursement, but it's not nearly enough.
It's $50.
And then if you look at
$50
per credit.
$50.
So a class is approximately, you get approximately $150 a class, and that's nothing.
That's like,
and then you think about our salaries. Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to, bring this to the forefront. Like, hey, we need to be respected. We take our job serious. I love my job. And, some people all, say, well, if if you're not making enough money, if you feel like you're not being respected, why won't you just find a new job?
Yeah, find a new job.
And it's like,
become a teacher.
Yeah. In the 80s, teachers had to strike to get paid, livable wages. A lot of teachers back in the 80s and 90s had like 2 jobs. When I was in high school, shout out to engineering and science. Yes. My high school teacher, she was a waitress. When SEPTA, I would say SEPTA have really good benefits and, good good salaries. But when they're not making enough money, they're shutting a whole city down. You know, I remember it was one time I couldn't go to work because the buses wasn't running because they were on strike. You know, and we have 13,000 members. We had, like, I believe 21, 22. It shrunk by 40%. We need to start using our members and using, you know, para is just a small part of the 13,000 to bring attention to, you know, problems like this, like respect and, you know, higher tuition reimbursement and, you know, things like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize how much paras do.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at it from a child's point of view, teachers are up here, they're in part of your grades, they call your mama, all of them. And then you have your paras and your climate staff. A lot of students will go to a para first. Paras are the ones where all of the information was going on in somebody's house. And a lot of times we don't get that respect. Or some teachers will go, okay, honey, sure. You know, and we're just asking for a lot of respect. Like, unless you work with a para, you don't know how important they are.
Yeah, I see that all the time. And to piggyback off of Leah, paras are in the communities where most of these students live, whereas, you know, the psychologists, and I'm not, you know,
Teachers
downing them or, you know, anything like that, because they have a right to live wherever they want to live. But paras are in the communities with the students that's in these urban, you know, schools, you know, that don't have a lot of funding, and like Leah said, sometimes the students will go to the paras first because, you know, they can just relate.
You mentioned that the workforce of paras is shrinking. Is that due to people leaving the job because of the conditions, or is that due to budget cuts?
Both. Okay, so here's story time. I started working in the district in about 2005, 2006.
Okay.
And I was an SSA. Now, SSAs they work either 3 to 4 hours. So 3 to 4 hours, you're only bringing home $245 every 2 weeks.
Say that again.
$245 every 2 weeks. Yeah. So when the school district and the SRC, when all that mess came and they canceled the contract, the first thing they did was they laid off everybody under 10 years. So a lot of your SSAs got cut and they froze the pay. And so your SSAs, your Limas, all your paras got cut. I know BCAs that were working 95, 96, even 10 years, they got cut. They were all laid off. And then after like a couple years later, maybe 3 or 4 years later, they start rehiring, but it was still at the same rate. Now, if you're working in a classroom, you're dealing with a lot more stuff. You're, as a classroom assistant or a sped assistant or one-to-one, you're being hit, kicked, punch, bit. You're changing Pampers, you're changing feeding tubes, but you're still getting the same pay.
Wow.
So SSAs really don't have to deal with that, but if you're like a classroom assistant or a sped assistant and you're doing a multidisciplinary room or ED, you start off making about 14 grand.
Yeah.
That's it. You go from 14 to 30 and it stops.
I can make that as a cashier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made that much at
Philadelphia.
Kmart before.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really sad, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
And these are the individuals that are in place to help cultivate minds and usher them through the education process, and they're being paid $14,000 a year.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people will say, well, it's because we had that pay freeze. No, it's not the pay freeze. What it is, people did not think that paras are important. Even our own leadership did not think that paras were important. It's a teachers union. It's a teachers union. What if paras stopped working?
Let me ask you, does it make sense that you guys would not be a part of the teachers union?
I would say it makes sense that we should be in the PFT. We're in the classrooms. There's been times where substitute teachers would come in and they would 100% rely on the one-to-ones, classroom assistants. It would be times where, like me, myself, I do data. I do the STAR program with my student. I do a lot of things that the teacher does. No, I don't do everything that the teacher do, but I do a lot. I teach them, basically. And the worker educators name themselves the educators, as far as I know. is because an educator is not just a teacher. An educator can be a tutor. It's anyone that's mentoring or, just educating someone, just simply put, just educating someone. It's just not specifically a teacher. So paras absolutely should be in the PFT. Absolutely.
Well, they should, but there are other districts around the country where paras are by themselves as a different bargaining unit. As paras being a part of the PFT is like power in numbers, because we should be able to push for more because we're part of a greater union. If we were separate from them, it'd be a little bit more difficult, and I would feel like it'd be like David and Goliath, which this time Goliath may have won, or we were then very broke up as a group. So as part of the PFT, we're David and Goliath, but we're the rock that hits in the middle of the forehead. So it's good for us to be a part of the PFT because we can make our voices heard and yell enough. It's enough of us where we can make a difference. I feel that if we were separate, it would be a whole different story. It's funny, though, that all over the country, they're doing Black Lives Matter Week, but the school district and our own union will not endorse it at all.
Really?
And the Racial Justice Committee on the Working Caucus are the one that put it together and started going with people, like collaborating with it, and they refused, both the district and the PFT leadership refuses to acknowledge it or even implement it.
Why do you think that is?
Comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to rock the boat.
Mm-hmm. And there's lesson plans made up, curriculums for, to teach the students to implement it into the classroom. But like Leah said, the district just doesn't want to implement it in the district. We don't know why. But we're hoping that, we can persuade them with different we're hoping that we can persuade them to implement it in the schools. So hopefully they'll do it soon. We keep talking to them, keep going to the action meetings, keep going down to 440. We talk to the parents, let the parents know. The parents, they support it. So now it's just trying to get the district on board as well.
Yeah, there's always, what about the test scores? What's going to happen with the test scores? It's all about the test scores. And it's like, our children need to see this.
Right.
And know this. And I call it the Fab Five. They need to know more than just the Fab Five. They're not even teaching the Fab Five.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Fab Five?
Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman. I call them the Fab Five. When I was going to school during Black History Month, you learned Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, and slavery, but you didn't know like the Deacons of Defense. You didn't know about Black Panthers. I mean,
right.
Black Lives Matter is teaching our children that is more to us than slavery. It's a different way to do things and how to become a community, because we're so used to being broken apart.
Does the district ever say anything tangible that is why they can't, or why they're thinking about it, or do they say anything that you can a specific thing you can tie them to as to why or why not?
No.
No, unfortunately.
No, it's like, oh, Black Lives Matter. How cute. Bye bye. Okay, we're gonna go over here now.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because for a district that is predominantly Black, you would want as much information out there as possible, and it's not necessarily saying that you are aligning yourself with one party or the other, or one idea set or the other. It's just, this is what's out there. This is the information. This is the history, especially in Philadelphia, where a lot of this shit happened.
It happened.
Yes.
You would want to be able to get that information out there as much as possible as educators.
No, all they do is they keep going back to the textbooks. They keep going back to, okay, well, here's the PSSA. How does this align with the PSSAs? We need our test scores to go up. We're like, well, if you teach them their history, you can align all of that together. But it's like, nope, here's the book for it. This is what you want you to do. Here are the core standards. That's it.
That's wild. You're looking for individuals to support your cause. How can, as a parent, as a fellow paraprofessional, or as maybe I'm not a parent, maybe I'm just a dude with a job. How important is it that you get that support from those individuals that are not in the profession? But then also, where can they go to support?
I would say it is very important. A lot of parents support the Work Educators Caucus. Just at McClure, there was a rally and a protest outside where, parents showed up. If you think about the action meetings at 440, when I go down there, I see a lot of parents, supporting the staff, supporting the paras, the teachers, trying to raise attention to the building conditions in the district. We have happy hour events where we get to meet different communities. So we try to, spread it out, because Philadelphia, is so many different, type of people, race, religion. So we hit the Northeast, we hit West Philly, South Philly, Center City to try to talk to the parents and the people in that community. We try to support local businesses, and local businesses support us because they believe in what we're doing. Just recently, we had Chef Millie at the ParaPower pet rally, and he was there, to support us, and he believed in Paris and understand the importance of Paris. So, things like happy hours and going to action meetings at 440 and testifying in front of Dr. Height and having the parent support and, being in the community, that's what really, helps and drive to keep fighting, I would say.
We would also like for parents and people in the community follow us on social media. So there's the Caucus of We, their Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. There's the Racial Justice Committee, all three. Black Lives Matter at School, that is on Instagram. ParaPower is on Facebook. And We ParaPower is on Instagram. So follow and share and talk to people. Hey, look, we're trying to make sure our schools are better. Why is this important for our schools to be better? It's important for our schools to get better because it's important for our community. It's important to build our community. We gotta help our teachers and especially our paras, because they live in our community. They see what's going on. So just get the word out and come out and join us.
Thank you, ladies. I enjoyed this conversation. I think we got a lot of information out there so that people can find. We'll share all your links and everything in the body of this podcast. But thank you for stopping by, Leah and Sadidra.
Thank you for having me. And I just want to say one thing. I really, like I said, Working Educators is trying to build a union that's from the bottom up, where we have high participation from our members. Members feel more engaged. We want open negotiations. We want to make sure that every member feels important and feel heard. We want to talk to as many people as we can as we schedule Meet the Slates to talk to different educators at the schools across the district. So we're fighting for healthy school conditions. We're fighting for higher wages, smarter class sizes. We work closely with CTU, the Chicago Teachers Union, and paras over there received a 40% raise. We're trying to get what Baltimore, LA, and Chicago, what they want, to get it in Philadelphia, so that Philadelphia paras could possibly have 40% raise, and schools can be in better conditions, and people can feel more respected and feel more engaged and involved in their union. And I feel like when people feel a part of the union, people fight, and appreciate their union, a little bit more. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Very well said. Appreciate you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, I want to thank Leah and Sadidra for joining me on the podcast, breaking it down for our listeners what paraprofessionals do, who they are, and why they are demanding representation and equal rights in the workforce, essentially. Because, as I said, they are just as important as teachers to cultivating young minds. And I think this lends itself to a larger conversation that we keep going back to about reforming our education system, how we treat the institution and the expectations and the learning process and the things we set up in the classroom for the students as well. I think our education system is completely broken, outdated, and needs to be completely overhauled or thrown away and start from scratch. We really need to have more conversations about how we do that, what that means, if we expect our communities to be prepared for the future and really prepared to be out on their own and support themselves and their families. Thank you again, as always, for tuning in. If you have opinions on how we reform education and what it means for your community, feel free to email me at realtalk@salascorner.com. Salas Corner is recorded out of Rec Philly. It is a space for creative individuals. It is produced by producer extraordinaire Bree Wilson and features music by Delgado. For more of my work, please visit salascorner.com. And until next time, peace, y'all.